Welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you are with us for session 4 of our Shaklee Strategy Forum. And today we have a very special guest speaker, Charlene Fike, who's going to give us a lot of wisdom around money and talk a lot about financial realities of what's going on with, American families. Here is our leadership group this session. You get to see the wonderful people that collaborate to work together to bring such powerful information. Today we are short of Barb Lagoni and a Becky Choate because they are off doing wonderful things, but we get to, and Margaret's not with us today too, but I'm thrilled to be on with Angie and Francine and of course Charlene, our guest speaker. So here we go. So let's talk just quickly about our objectives for this semester. Our theme is thinking bigger and reaching higher. We loved the theme that Shaklee put out as far as being the year of the key. So we really want to have consistent things that are going to encourage us all to expand our thinking and to start to see the possibilities, to see the bigger picture, to strive towards the ranks of executive and key. And what we're going to achieve when we become these ranks really has as much to do, if not more, on the inside than what gets to be shown and what we see develop on the outside. So we're going to talk a lot about empowering teams and empowering ourselves to grow. And then there's some fun perks that we are going to get to unravel as the company begins to make this focus. And we've heard one of them, of course, being the top achievers trip to China this next year being basically kind of awarded when you hit the higher ranks key and above. So it's all good stuff is what it is. So our objectives today, we want to be effective leaders. We want to understand the numbers behind what we're sitting on business-wise and what we can offer people and really our scenario, our situation, I guess, culturally. So Charlene is going to do a great job helping us understand the financial realities of what's going on around us in our world, how Shaklee can offer solutions. But I think the part that is most empowering for us is then that we can take this knowledge and we can turn it on and we can communicate it and we can share it and offer it to other people, which is really a big piece of unlocking the opportunity and growing as leaders when we can help convey these concepts to people and help people see the magnitude of the gift that we have to offer. So with that, let me introduce Presidential Master Coordinator Charlene Fike. Now, listen to this. This is amazing to me. Charlene and Doug have been Master Coordinators for 29 years without ever reverting from the rank, which is actually kind of staggering if you think about what it means to be a Master Coordinator. They are Presidential Lifetime Master Coordinators. They live in D.C. They have their first grandbaby coming in May, kind of out here by us in Colorado, and so in some ways, life is still just beginning for them because I know that's going to be amazing. One of the coolest parts about your story, Charlene, is that you guys started your business while you were in college, which is neat. And one of the favorite things I love when you get to share your story with my young team, because I do have a pretty young team, and I think it's very empowering for them to see you and to hear about the success you stepped into at a very young age. So with that, wow, are we thankful and happy that you are with us, and I am going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. Want to just kind of frame what I want to talk about. And to me, what I want to focus during this time is how to have effective conversations. So I'm going to be sharing some ideas about ways that you could be having and shaping conversations for what life could look like if people added $1,200 to $4,000 a month in side income. Now, why am I starting here? And this has kind of been an epiphany for me as I've been coaching different people in my group, and it kind of happened in the fall. I was doing a couple of huddle calls with some of my builders and leaders, and one of them was, we were talking about plans for 2017, and she said, I just need to get better at promoting the business. That's my #1 goal for 2017. I need to get better about finding people who want to do this business. And when I got off the phone, I was walking the beach. I was in Vietnam at the time and just kind of took a long walk because something about that call bothered me. But I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and I was praying about it and thinking about it and wrestling with it, and all of a sudden I had this epiphany that I think in Shaklee we make a big mistake when we say, I need to find someone who wants to do the business. And ladies, you can jump in and agree with me or disagree with me at any time. But here's where I'm coming from that, is that a lot of times what happens is we say, I'm looking for someone who wants to do this business. But the real reality is that most people who come into Shaklee came because they loved the products, fell in love with the DNA and the heritage of who we are, and then
Mhm.
couldn't help but share it. But they weren't
Yes.
necessarily looking for a business. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I think when we put on the hat that I got to find that business builder, that someone who wants to build a business, the real reality is that this is a conversation that evolves, where people
Oh.
can believe maybe a business is for them. But if we go around asking people, are they interested in a business? For the most part, that question's not going to get you very far.
Mm.
So really the question is, what would it look like if you could add $1,200 to $4,000 a month in side income? And let's talk about the power of side income. And I call it side income because it's very clear that you're doing something along whatever you're already doing. So let's take a look at some things, because what I want, you guys want to dialogue on that before I move on? It's fine.
I
Well,
think,
I just no. Go ahead, and I'll add to that what you say. Go ahead.
well, another thing that you were saying, Charlene, was a lot of times we do say, I need, I need, I need. And when we say need, that almost is coming from like a deficit way of
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah,
I mean, you need something when you're thirsty, you need water. When you're hungry, you need food. Something is going on that is causing some type of negative reaction. Whereas we could, rephrase that too, just in our heads, as far as this is what I want, and want is something that we look forward to and is almost like a treat to ourselves too. So even that, I love how you phrase that question, and that's what we're saying to people, but we need to remember what we're also saying to ourselves.
right, right,
Mm-hmm.
powerful. Now, today I was coaching somebody in one of my huddle calls with a new builder, and she was talking about she's going to a pampered chef party, and so she was asking for advice, like, what do I do? And I said, honestly, you just go, and the whole point is you want to build relationships, and you want to be thinking about how can I serve the needs of somebody around me. So be listening, and then I gave her a bunch of suggestions about things that she could listen to and then the position is always, how can I serve you? And so I taught her how to do conversations afterwards as a follow-up so that she could navigate whatever came up tonight's party, where she could maybe say, I hadn't been able to get you off of my mind. I just met you, but you mentioned XYZ, and it made me think of the fact that, and then what's the gift you could give? And when you think in terms of how can I serve other people and their needs, all the better. So I put together a couple of slides that I think might help us think about what might be ways that we could serve people in conversations. So let's start off with the first one that I found quite shocking, but 26% of all Americans have no emergency savings whatsoever. And even though we know we should have, according to, I think, Susie Orman, I think she says 8 months. That's just like most people can't. I think the
Mm-hmm.
standard, I think when you talk with Dave Ramsey people and whatever, I think they say 3 months if I'm correct. But most people don't have anything whatsoever. And so what that means is that we're leveraged in debt to make our ends meet with credit card bills, or we've moved to maybe a higher income bracket neighborhood than what we can truthfully afford, but we're doing it because we want kids to be in better schools, so we've leveraged our way out with a higher mortgage. And so even though we may look on the outside like we're doing okay, without emergency savings, it just takes one accident. It just takes one person getting off of something happening that you become vulnerable. In fact, I read this statistic that said that a woman in her 50s and 60s, if becomes a widow, that on average within 3 months, I can't remember, it was pretty high. It was like 62%. Don't quote me exactly, but it was well over 50% stand a good chance to be bankrupt in 3 months after they
Wow.
become widows.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that is because there is no emergency savings. There is no plan B. So
Wow. Wow.
the statistics that came out of Maria Shriver's report when she looked at the war on poverty a couple years back, I got this quote from her, and that's that 1 in 3 women in America are just one paycheck away from disaster if an emergency strikes. So think about that when you're going shopping, because that means that your Sunday school teacher is 1 in 3 women. You've got a teacher, they're vulnerable. I mean, I think we think about poverty as that's something that could happen to everybody else, but the real reality is that most of us are living well beyond our means and are leveraged with debt, that all it takes is one disaster, and then
Right.
you're not that far from it. So remember when I started, what would it look like if you could make 1,200 to 4,000 extra side income? That what I'm going to be doing is that's just one statistic to keep in mind when you're thinking about who are conversations that you can be having with, that this would make a big difference to just have an extra. And I kind of learned this from my son, because as he was coming out of college and finishing his master's degree, and he was thinking about building Shaklee, and they are directors in Shaklee, but they were listening to tapes and listening to people. He said to me, he says, "Mom, why is it that you Shaklee people always talk about the big income? My group and I mean, it would make a difference to Mindy and I if we just made a steady $500 to $800 extra a month. That's the
Mm-hmm.
difference between us having a better quality of life and scraping by." And so why wouldn't you promote this as something that we can wrap our heads around instead of that
Yeah.
$50,000, $60,000 a month? It's like I just tune you out. So how many people could you be having conversations with that we rule out of a conversation because we're looking at them as, I'm looking for that business person? No, these are solutions that people are facing.
Mm.
So the average credit card debt by age, if you guys could put up that slide, I just want you to take a look at this. Those of you who are coming in by phone, let me just read this to you. But the average credit card by age 20 to 35 is over 5,000. And then it jumps up to 8,000 for 35 to 44. And that sweet spot, that 45 to 54-year-olds, their average credit card age, and these are current statistics, are over $9,000 on average. So, and then it starts dipping down a little bit when you get to 55 to 64, that's still 8. And then obviously the older you get, you're still looking at 6,000 average for 65 and over. And then the 75 plus crowd kind of goes back to what a 25 to 20 to 35-year-old is at 5. So again, from conversation points, what would it look like if you just could get an extra 500, 800, 1,200, 3,000, 4,000 that was coming in at a steady clip, and you could be able to start tackling that debt so that if an emergency happens, you're not stuck. And then another statistic that I fell in love with and saw, because I was just shocked by it. Unfortunately, my kids decided to go to pretty expensive schools, but the average class of 2016 graduate has $37,172 in student loan debts. That's criminal. And on top of that, research has shown that the average bachelor's degree holder, it takes them 21 years to pay off their loan.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
So if you know this
so
and you
unfair.
know someone who's in this position, why wouldn't we have a conversation that goes something like this? Lisa, I know that you're just a recent graduate, and you may not be thinking necessarily about how you're going to repay your debt. But if you could fall in love with the DNA of a company and its mission and its purpose, and you could feel good about introducing those products to your friends, would you be willing to have a 10 to 20-minute conversation and see whether I could present a business plan that might make sense as a way for you to whittle away at your debt so that you don't have to be under that yoke for so long?
Yes, the answer is yes. And it's funny because I think about myself, way back in the days of when I was kind of at that age. And if you would have just said business, I had a pre-established thought that I'm not a business person. I can't run a business.
Exactly.
But you framed it and you gave me a perspective. And I can tell you that even the word business and what you said probably would have made my guts a little nervous, right? But what you did was you tied in that, that whole DNA and you put it in a place where it's exactly what your son said. I can comprehend what it is that you're offering enough to where my mind is open to it. So
Yeah.
very good, very good.
And I think, too, it's important, especially when you're talking to millennials, they are passionate about what they're doing. Like, Justin finished his master's degree in creative writing from Oxford. I mean, it's not like he chose that because he doesn't love it. He loves it. So if I go to him and say, hey, there's this great opportunity, and all I hear is our excitement about something, it's a better conversation to be able to say, what if I could show you a way that you could do something at the side, that you could leverage some time by giving up a little bit of time in the short term. You could leverage some time. I have some training that you could go for. I'll help you get this off the ground, but that you could have a steady $1,000 to $1,200 every month so that that side income could help get a better quality of life. Would you be interested in a 15-minute conversation to know what it's about? So that's kind of how I keep doing it. So I really believe that it's really time that we start thinking differently about how we approach people. I think it's different. It's time for us to start thinking differently about the business that we offer people and move forward. So if you guys could go ahead and move the slide up to one more, then let's park ourselves at this next slide a little bit, because I think we need to understand the value of what we offer people. So if you think about residual income, that's on the left-hand side, and at 5% interest sitting in the bank, what you would need to make in a year to make that on a monthly basis, you'd have to have $24,000 sitting in a bank to make $100 a month in interest payments. Now, most of us don't want to park $24,000 a month for that little piddly return at 5%. And most banks, you can't even get 5%. So I just did the numbers on 5 because it stretches it. But if you think about the fact that a senior exec coordinator in Shaklee, on average, makes anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000. Let's just say they're a little bit above average and they're making $5,000. That value of that residual monthly income is like having $1,200,000 sitting in the bank making you turn over money. And I think sometimes we forget the value of what earned monthly residual is. We think about it as, I think we just get too close to it to understand that the power of what we can talk to people about is really important, to be able to have these things, that we understand them, and that we can weave them into conversations. So I really think that it's really time for us to think about the conversations, because our conversations matter. So let's park ourselves here. If there's any chats, any questions that you guys have on the side that you want to chat, I'll keep my eye on it. But anything thinking you guys have about conversations that matter, because I think that we have to change and elevate what we offer. For me, I think the biggest thing that, if I can coach anybody, is that we have to put on the hat that what we offer is a contribution by having conversations. And it isn't taking advantage of anybody. It's not having a conversation because of what's in it for us. It really is, if you really put on the conversation of, my role is to think about what gift can I give somebody, then, you know, we're in pretty precarious times where that extra income may just be the entrance point for someone coming into this business, but they don't have to look at it. They may grow in and fall in love with it and go, I love this, and I want to do this, and I want to make more impact. I want to have more families' lives impacted, and I want to do this more strategically, and I want to build an organization, and I want to get to key, or I want to get to master. That's fine, but most people don't start there. And I think we limit our reach from people who could be impacted by what we have to offer, because we haven't changed our conversation about just listening and being wise about what is it that people are looking for, and what's the solution that we can go from there. So was there any questions on the side that I didn't see?
Charlene, I think that was just so powerful. And I really am looking at questions too while I talk, but I really resonated a lot with how the story about your son, how he's really passionate about creative writing. To approach him as, I've got this great business idea, that would not resonate with him. And I as a mom of young kids, a lot of the people I'm around are in this time of, should I go back to work? What should I do for this extra income to pay off bills? Or, you know, the kids are getting more expensive. And to be more of a solution to them has completely changed my thinking on that conversation. So both of those points are really I just feel like that was an amazing 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
one other thing just to keep in the back of your mind that it cost, I just read this statistics that this is the current statistic they're saying, but it cost you, what was it, $120,000 is the average from a 2-year-old till I think they get past high school that it's going to cost you in extra expenses for the household. That a lot of people don't factor those kinds of things in. I mean, obviously it's averaged out over the years, and most private schools today, if you want to put your kids in a private school, are as much as what that debt that somebody is carrying from coming out of college.
Yeah.
So there's lots of solutions that if you put on your thinking cap and you think about what are conversations that you could invite people to, and then give them the power of telling you yes or no. But don't take that away from them because you don't want to have that conversation, because there's a lot of people who you just may be the answer for.
So here's a question I have, Charlene. If I'm on this call and I'm listening to you and this makes such good sense, and we talk a lot in our group about organic business building and making it natural, but if a person really wanted to get good about stepping into the conversation, like you said, and turning it into their language, how would they practice that? What would you recommend as far as someone really, because that is a skill set that clearly you've mastered and it is very good for you, but I think it's also very scary for a lot of people.
Sure.
So what do you recommend for getting good at these conversations?
Well, I think that the best way to practice, and I think you guys had Carolyn Whiteman way back when, and you can look in the archives and listen to her whole 21st century conversations. But I think that's the real key, is coming up with what's the problem so that you know how, and schooling is just getting out of control and out of hands. So you get the you know how, so that you're on the same plane, because they're either going, I don't get you, or you want them to be going, yeah, I know, yeah. Then if I could, would you? And you learn that formula and you practice that formula. You know how? If I could, would you? And you keep writing that out, you'll get better at the conversation so that you're not thinking on your feet. And then secondly, I really believe that it's important that we think ahead and strategize. Like, I still do this after 35 years or more in this business. I still do this, where what I do is I honestly start thinking, where am I going to go? Like last night, Doug and I were invited, our condo association got invited to the restaurant that's down below us. The management of this company invited all the residents to come in for appetizers and a cocktail and just kind of getting to know each other. So it was like, I want to kind of hang out. I want to see, who are the people, and we know some and we don't. It's a very transient city. So we were there, and even before I was there, I went in going, okay, I'm going to get asked some questions. How am I going to answer? So I practice ahead of time. If someone asks me what I do, how am I going to answer that? How am I going to what kind of questions do I want to be thinking about so that I can follow up and see, is there any needs that I have? So out of that, I had 2 people that were like, I'd really like to get together with you. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be traveling out of the country for a little bit, but when I get back before the end of the month, let's have lunch together, or yeah, let's have coffee. Come on up to my apartment and have coffee. But it came out of, I strategized to do it. And I think sometimes what happens is that we don't plan ahead. Like, I was, one of my builders was overseeing a women's ministry event where they had 80 people from their state were coming in for a weekend last weekend. So we rehearsed and practiced. Okay, so you're going to be asked some questions. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to be listening? What is it that you're going to be listening for so that you can follow back up? And strangely enough, one of them, I'm actually coaching the coach of her. So I wasn't coaching her directly, but we were talking about how do you leverage that goodwill, because she was leading this event. So today in a coaching conversation I had was, she reported that everybody was saying, wow, you have so much energy, you must be really tired after this event. And she was like, actually, I'm not. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. That's the one we'll go with. So now handwrite a letter or contact back and say, you asked me at the time, how could I have it? And I said I had energy and not to worry about it. But really what I realized is that I'm being unfair to you by not sharing with you what I know about how I maintain my energy. And if you'd like to know that, can we have a 10, 15-minute phone conversation where I can explain what it is that I do if you're interested? So you're weaving in that, how, if I could, would you, constantly, but you have to practice.
That's so good. That's so good. So I hear what you're saying. So you're intentional. You're not going to waste the conversation. You're going in the conversation prepared, intentional, and rehearsed and practiced, but also then with the full focus of being on meeting them where they're at and having it be about them. And
Exactly.
I think that's really good stuff. Thank you so much.
Charlene, I think a couple of people are interested in how you answer that question when people ask you what you do,
Okay.
including me.
Well, if you guys have done any work on your why or kind of your vision statement, I wrap my answer into the why. So let me give you an illustration. If you're not clear on a why, my son Justin and I have a free little mini why course that you can get at IamWorkingSmart.com. Scroll down there till you can get a free why thing, and it's a great exercise to do with your teams. That's why we did it. It's free. It's a little course, gives you a lot of questions, but you can kind of fine tune and work at your why. So like I know that my why, and it became my tagline, is that I help craft lives that matter. So like when someone asks me what I do, I can say I'm really committed to helping people craft lives that matter to them. And I do that by, and then I kind of shape that based on what's the reality. So like business coaching might be one, and helping people get financially free and craft a plan that works for them to be financially free, if that's the angle that I'm going at. Or I help craft lives that matter, and I'm committed to doing that by helping people establish healthy homes. So I can kind of keep weaving whatever that is, because that's just what rings true for me, because it's out of my why. So like today I got a Facebook message from someone who took one of our vision casting workshops, and she was working through her why material, and then she was like, is this what you meant? And she had kind of got a whole bunch of stuff. But really at the granular level, she basically, I'm trying to remember her exact words, but her exact words were that her why is to help people flourish. So I said, right there is everything. You should finish every presentation by saying, what I am committed to is helping you flourish. So if the conversation is about finances, it's about finances. If it's about health, I'm helping you flourish. Health, for her, spirituality was a big thing. So if she's in those circles, then she's helping people flourish in their spiritual development. And that came out of her why. So you can answer what do you do by that. That's been the most comfortable way, because otherwise I'm like, well, have you ever heard of this multi-level company? I mean, it's like marketing, and I don't know. I mean, it's like Shaklee, the oldest nutrition company in the world, and oh yeah, and then it just doesn't come true. So I come back to what my why is, and then weave it based on whatever. And you can practice that kind of stuff in your teams. Or if you have an accountability circle, or if you don't have accountability, good grief, this group has a great Facebook group. Say, I'm looking for 3 people to practice my language with, and see if you can find 3 people. But this takes practice, but it's so worth doing it so that it just slips out of your tongue.
Oh, so good. Very good.
So how much more time do we have? I don't want to cut anybody else off.
We're only halfway through our session, so I feel like
I didn't know how much time I had, so
yeah, you're doing great.
You have the whole.
I do? I didn't realize that. Okay, so let's have 2 more slides. Let's go to the next one, because I've shown this to you before when I was with you guys, and I think it's still up on there's a download in the sharing with the masters file. But I put together this as a 1-page slide so that you could just print it off, and what I like about it is you learn to weave a story. And I think what we need to do in having better business conversations is that you kind of need more than one in your pocket. So I have this as a 1-page sheet that I can quickly talk to somebody with during a member orientation, or I can do a Zoom meeting and then I can zoom right in to just explain what is Shaklee. So if they don't know about our mission, I focus on the mission. If they don't know who we are, then I'll feed that in. But we can do that because of our commitment to science, because of our patents. I mean, I can just keep the proof is in our patents. The business ownership is yours, and then what's the next step? I can weave conversations based on those bullet points on the left-hand side, which helps me explain the use, share, build, and then right there they're seeing the financial grid of what the average earnings are per month, not per year, which people have a harder time seeing. So feel free to download that, but that's a one-page easy thing to have in your hand, because you can do this I've done this in 5 minutes. I've done it and really get into it, and it's 20 minutes. But I try to keep my conversations in that 15-minute range, because I feel like people can tune you out, and I'd rather have more than one conversation where I'm answering their questions because they've thought about it than me thinking I've covered all the bases in one conversation. So having lots of little things like this in your arsenal, to me, I think that makes it a more powerful in being able to explain how it works. And so that's one that I have. And then the next slide is just showing you a portion of it. But again, it's that breaking that down into the monthly earnings rather than the yearly earnings. I think you're going to get more of it. Like if you have that in front of you when you're doing a presentation, or it's the end of a slide when you're using it, and you have that sitting there staring at you, you don't have to fill in the blanks. People will kind of put their eyes exactly where they want to go. But it makes it a little bit more tangible, and I think it just helps people to explain that a deal. So like Shaklee has some great resources. I really like their new PowerPoint business presentation, but one of the habits that I think Shaklee has is that they tend to try to cover so many bases for all of us that it's our job as a leader to weed through what works and what doesn't. So I probably will cut off half of the slides that are given personally, because I'm trying to get stuff done in about a 10-minute window so that it gives me time for them to answer questions. And then I'm respecting their time, because what I'm after is not a one-time conversation. I want 3, 4, 5 conversations. I want to build that rapport, and I want to kind of see I want to test out their commitment to where are they at. And so, and that I get better success out of that, because I think what it does is it builds realistic optimism into the business conversation, rather this unrealistic optimism like, oh, I can go through the fast track. I'm like, well, let's just look at the fast track. Because even in our chart, like I love the dream chart, but I don't bring out the dream chart until I'm ready to do a more thorough, I want you to really understand how the business works. So I will do it with Zoom, and I have it on my computer, and I make it highlighted exactly where I want them to see what we're focusing on, and then I can go through each component of the dream plan and explain to them, and then I can show how the fast track at the bottom of that chart is just an easy way to understand and see what are the components that you have to get good at to learn to get the income averages that you're looking for up at the top. So whether you do it in the fast track manner and you want to put yourself under the position of what I call jogging, I mean, you're really sprinting in that case. But if you want to walk or jog, the pathway is still the same to show you a path that you need to follow to get to the income that you're looking for. So I can have multiple conversations just using the chart, using a PowerPoint presentation, or using that one-page sheet that I showed you. And I think that we just have to have more than one thing in our arsenal, because not everything will work for it. It's not a one-size-fits-all. And you've got plenty of people around that are going to help, your upline or your team to be able to say, I'm going into this situation, what do you think might be my best solution to try? So I think those are some tips that I think to me make sense in the business conversations, but having that there. And then one other tip is that I think as women sometimes, I mean, I'm not excluding men because I know men listen to this conversation too, and you might be in the same boat, but there are some people who talk themselves into being math challenged and like numbers don't matter, I don't understand it. And so when you start saying to yourself, I don't understand it, you do yourself a disservice,
Mm-hmm.
because this isn't a complicated business to understand. There are just components that you have to understand. So I find that one of the best things to do as an assignment is to just help people see where the profit comes from in this business. And I think a lot of times what happens is that I was just having a conversation with somebody a couple days ago, and I said, I was encouraging her to do the 5-day reset, and I'm encouraging people who I'm in my little support group team that we're, the ones that are saying, I'm committed, we're building, and I'm coaching. I'm committing that all of us are starting to sell that at retail, because we're cheapening it by giving it at our price. I mean, I used to own a retail store, and if I told you, Lisa, I like you so much, you're my friend, come on in here. I just went to all this trouble, and I sourced all this material, and I put it in my lovely store. Welcome to my store. And oh, by the way, because I love you, here, I'll give it to you at my cost. You'd be out of business in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to think about what it is that we offer. So I just did the numbers on the 5-day reset, and by selling those 5 products, and we used, the DTX, the tea, the Life Shake, alfalfa, and Herblax. So just that, or do whatever. If you're doing the 7-day cleanse, the Fresh Start program, I don't care. It just do the same thing. But I did that and figured out what the retail cost would be and what it comes to per day. It was like $13.53, 56 cents. I don't have it in front of me, but it's not that much for 3 meals, and for the privilege of feeling better in 5 days or getting your money back, maybe getting some better sleep, getting rid of some belly bloat, and having more energy. And you're recalibrating your taste buds so that you're not driven by your food choices. That's the real benefit to you, and it costs this. And so it's now I can tell a new distributor, charge it at retail, you're paying it member, that's a profit center that you're giving up. Now you add that to your bonus, and you get 10 people on a reset, you're going to be making about $400. So what we do is, because we're not treating this like a profession and a business, we give it all away. And I learned this in college. It was always like, everybody was like, oh, no one has any money. And I'm thinking, that's just a bunch of BS. You have money for what you want, because they had hiking boots, the latest ones. They had camping gear, the smartest stuff. I mean, obviously, you could tell what kind of college I was in. They had money for beer. They had money for pizza. They had money for what they valued. I just didn't do a good job of explaining what the value was, so they
Right.
didn't exchange that with me. So I think if we can elevate that and understand our numbers, like, where are our profit centers, and can you afford to give some stuff up because of your pricing structure? It might be time for us to start thinking differently. And just the other day, I was at Whole Foods. I'd been at our local Whole Foods. There's this refugee woman that is selling this avocado coconut cream, and I happened to walk by a couple months ago, and honestly, I just wanted to support her, so I bought this little tube. But Doug and I ended up using it and liking it, and I was out, and I thought, oh, I'm near Whole Foods, I'm going to go see if it's there. I couldn't find it on the shelves, so I went around the corner to where the vitamin was to see the lady, to ask her, are you not selling the stuff from the lady from Alexandria anymore here? Where is it? But I had to wait while I was listening to the conversation, and she was helping this lady pick out a multivitamin. So she was like, you could pick this and you could pick that, and then most people pick that. And that was the conversation. So the lady went, okay, I'll go with what most help. And she took that bottle and left. So afterwards, she showed me where the thing was, and I came back to see what was that bottle. So I'm looking at it going, oh, holy crap. Wow, that didn't have anything that Vitally has. And it was like $58.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, you know what? I think we all need to do a trip to the health food store. And, we've just gotten so used to thinking that our stuff is expensive, and it's the wrong conversation. Like, compared to what? And I think we got to get better about what we represent. And I know that there are people here who are like, they're strapped financially going, but I'm already feeling like I'm spending a lot. But again, even this morning, I had I can tell Tuesdays are my coaching day because I have a lot of people that I have a huddle with. So I was having a conversation with one, and they're new. She's a new distributor. She's first level to me. And she's been doing the reset, and she finally got her husband on the reset, and they've been kind of doing them. She goes, we're just kind of on this reset lifestyle. We just really like it, and now we're kind of playing with being vegans, and we're just really liking what we're doing. And my husband said to me, at first he was skeptical, and he said, we can't afford this. And then I just decided this was what we're going to do because our son needs it, and I need it, and now he's into it. And the other day they were doing their budget, and he said, I can't believe how much our grocery bill has gone down since we started doing Shaklee. Sometimes we forget that too. It's kind of like you think, oh, I'm spending all this money, but if you think about what we're getting and the food cravings that go away when we actually have proper protein in our bodies and we have proper nutrition, and things that used to taste good don't taste good, that's what we're offering people. But we give away our profit centers because we feel sorry for people because we think they're overpriced. So I think if you're at that spot where you think it's overpriced, the problem is that when you think that way, it's like subliminally everybody around you thinks that way. I don't have a problem with the price, so I never get pushback on the price.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I love
those
that.
are some things that if you're looking at the business, and one of the things that I think sometimes people who are at the director level, they say, wow, I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not making money. Well, I would encourage you to take a good hard look at your numbers. For one, are you really taking advantage of the tax savings? Because one of the best benefits of being a director, which is one of the reasons that I started the Matrix training course, was that I really wanted the people to understand the power of the what we offer people is a cheap way to step into a whole new way to do your taxes, where you can help offset earned income in the home. So if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're thinking, man, I might go back to the working force, you may want to take a look at what the tax benefits are in this business, because the value of what you bring to help offset other earned income is a huge value at the director level and above. But on top of that, where was I going with that when I got off on that rabbit trail? The income, I hear people saying that I'm doing all this work and I'm not making money. It's probably because you're not treating it like a business and preserving your income streams. So helping people understand the power of retail, preserving the difference that the DN price is a director's privilege for running a business, and a member is a member price because they're a member. So there are lots of things like this that the value of what we have is pretty powerful. Because really, if you think about the earning power of a director in Shaklee, it's really good. One of the things that I do is I study lots of compensation plans. I don't know why I like them. I just do. I like seeing them. Frankly, I get approached by quite a few other direct sale companies because they know that I'm at my level, and they try to seduce me into leaving Shaklee and coming their way. And usually it's always, you can make so much more money in ours. And I'm like, well, I'm open. Let me see the plan. And I just want to see what their plan is, and I study it. And I don't know of a single time I have been recruited, and I've been recruited by quite heavily with some, and some of them have totally lost. They're not even in business anymore. But others that I'd name and you'd know, because there have been casualties from those companies. And so I have like Shaklee people have gone to them. But if I study their plan, when you look at apples to apple, the beauty of the dream plan is that at that director, senior director, coordinator, senior coordinator level, you cannot make that much money somewhere else. And for me, I'm more interested in the entry-level positions being rock solid in time for what you put in the time, that you get paid equitably, and the dream plan does it. And I'm asking you to take my word for it, because I really do study other plans, and I've seen what they do and what you have to do to maintain different ranks, and we have it so good in this business for what we do at our entry levels. And then at our top ranks, there's always somebody going, well, you could be making so much more somewhere else. And the real reality is that even that is a false statement, because in the senior exec to key, senior key, master rank, we get paid really well for the level of activity that we do. When you study someone else and say, at my top rank, you need to understand what are the numbers down below them that they have to do to make that same. And when you do an apples by apples comparison, we make more by having less people. It's just that I think in Shaklee we have forgotten how powerful our dream plan is, and we have forgotten how wonderful an opportunity it is, because at every level you're rewarded quite well for what you learn to do. So at the leadership levels with the infinity payout, you're being paid a leadership bonus for getting better at that. And so every level is equitable in a way that when I study other plans, they just aren't. And that's always been a mystery to me, because when I look at the others, like one of the promises that I want is, and it's one of the things that I like, is that I don't want to have to keep spinning plates to make this thing work for forever. And in a lot of the other businesses that are out there, just because of the way their businesses are structured, they end up having to continually be finding what I call new suckers to come into the pipeline. And what we get in Shaklee is people who fall in love with our DNA. And you know what? That's the lightning rod for me. If you do not fall in love with the DNA of what Shaklee is, you will not stick and you will not be satisfied, because you're always going to be looking for the grass to be greener somewhere else. But once you have that in place, I'm not constantly having to support a draining hole, because the way the business is structured model-wise doesn't reward long-term stability and something that I can inherit to my kids. So that was a big rant on my part.
But it was a good one.
There we go.
I just know from where I'm at personally, and a lot of where my team is at, these are questions that we have. I mean, this is an understanding that we actually need to have. And so, yay for your rant. It was excellent. Thank you very much. Good.
Well,
Good
you're welcome.
Yeah, we're getting great feedback on the question side over here, and they want you to stay around all afternoon. So I'm not sure we're able to catch you for that long, but can I ask you to go back a little bit to when you were talking about the reset, because we have a question about it that I think a lot of people are going to be asking. When you say you're charging retail for the reset, are you breaking up the products and giving them only what they need for that 5 days?
No.
So what if they're already members?
Well, if they're already members, then you got to give them that.
Okay, that's
we're talking about new people, like you're recruiting.
Right.
It is probably, in my book, the best way to introduce people to Shaklee, because you don't have to know a lot about nutrition to get people in it. And people, if you just explain the benefits of, wow, you could do anything for 5 days, and this is, if you've ever thought about just resetting your palate a little bit because your eating patterns are out of control, or you've just come back from vacation and you're feeling guilty because you ate things that you know, or it's just the Super Bowl and you probably drank more than what you wanted to, whatever the circumstances are, you know you want to do something. But a 21-day commitment for most people, that's a big deal. Or a 30-day master cleanse, that's a lot of commitment. And even thinking in terms of getting involved in Shaklee and getting in a long-term solution is a big deal for people, because it's a big life commitment to do health goals. So to me, the reset, the reason I like it so much is that it's an easy way for me to just do a taste and see, and it's 5 days. You can do it for 5 days, and we charge retail for it. And the way we talk about it is it's going to give you enough to do a 5-day gentle cleanse, and then and reset your palate and kind of your taste buds and give your body a pause. And the good news is you're just going to chop a lot of vegetables, but you're not going to have to cook. So that's the benefit to you. And then you're going to have some leftover products to continue a gentle cleanse through the rest of the month.
Nice.
And then that's how you make up for the fact that, yes, they're buying a lot of alfalfa that they don't use on the cleanse, but we encourage people to keep using it as
for sure.
Cleanse. But what I love about the reset is that when people are on those 2 smoothies a day or 3, depending on their body weight and what they can, tolerate hunger-wise, they're used to it. And then when we have the conversation of, do you want to do the health print and pick out your long-term patterns, especially with these new specials that we've got with if weight's your number one goal. It's a perfect segue to get them into a free membership because now they value it. But if you give it away and they don't even know, and I do it as a taste and see, like you get all your money back. Like try me out. If you don't feel better, if you don't notice something in 5 days, we'll return your money. So it's an easy way to do it. But if they're members, obviously they're going to buy at member price. But we use this as a means of talking to new people and keeping the preserved of the retail. But it's the whole package. It's like 154 or something like that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I don't consider that bad because it's like a groceries bill for the week, and you get extra. So you're going to be cleansing gently for the whole 30 days.
For sure. And actually some of those products have enough if you and your husband wanted to share the bottles for the cleanse, you could do that.
Right. And we have a package where we sell the pouch at retail and the Rain Morning 4 products for them to do.
Nice.
Great. Charlene, one other question that people are asking is where can they find information about the Matrix course that you offer?
Yeah, they just need to go to iamworkingsmart.com, and then if they scroll down, you'll see the Matrix course, and there's like a little video that explains it and kind of gives them some information, or if they want to learn how to coach someone, then the Matrix is the foundation, and the coaching is, especially I encourage people who feel like they're orphaned to get both. The Matrix is what you need. It's the core skills that we go through, and then it's got the financial education piece, which helps people set up their books properly and understand the power of the tax savings of having an in-home business. So that's the core, and then we have the coaching that actually goes through how to do the weekly huddles with somebody. So if someone's an orphan and they're feeling like, man, I don't have the upline support, you can kind of listen to the Matrix and then go to the coaching and coach yourself. And then we also have live bi-weekly calls for anybody who's in the coaching that we answer questions and help them out and stuff. But that's kind of how it's set up to just help people understand the power of what they have and then understand what are the skill sets necessary to do it. So we use the GoPro format where you're learning how to do a list effectively, you're learning how to listen, how to ask questions, how to invite people, how to follow up, how to convert them into a good customer, and then how to promote events.
Excellent. Very good. How are we on question, girls? Is there any more questions we want to field, or do we want to go ahead and move on to our last little pieces here?
I think we can.
Yeah, I think we're caught up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, people just had other questions about the 5-day reset, but I think Charlene just answered those.
Excellent. Good, good. Well, I know I'm speaking for everybody that, wow, this was just really, really good, and we're so thankful that you took the time to gift us with your wisdom and your knowledge, and even, Charlene, just allowing us some time to hear the ease and the flow of your verbiage is extremely valuable. So I'm sure that there's just going to be a tremendous amount of benefit for years to come just from this hour, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, so Francine, at the beginning of our at the end of our pre-call, did a beautiful job outlining just a great concept that she's introducing, and we're going to step into our action steps, but we thought we would just do a quick refresher. If you missed the pre-call, you might go back and catch the archive, but it was just a really wonderful way to be strategic and to increase volume. So Francine, do you want to recap this again? What do you think?
If we can go to page 2, maybe we could just go over the math. How about that?
Perfect.
Yeah. So if some of you did miss the pre-call, the first page was just a calendar of events that our team has coming up for the months of January and now February. And there were 6 slots under each one of those events, and so we were encouraging everybody in our team to invite people to those events with their goal of having 3 to 4 people at each event. And so this page is just the math because we were just assuming that most of these people were going to be new people. We talked about asking for referrals whenever we were inviting people to events. Who do you know? Who is having the same problems you are? Who would you like to attend one of these events with? People sometimes feel comfortable. If they could bring a buddy, you can even both get together at somebody's house and listen together or get on the Zoom event together, whatever. But then this page actually broke down how your PV can just boom. So if 3 people came to this event, or perhaps even more people came, but let's say just 3 people ordered and they had an average order of 50 PV. When you multiply it by the number of events that were available, that is 600 PV for January, and it came up to 1,200 PV for February because we had more events planned for February. So that's 1,200 PV on top of their baseline that they were already bringing in and their personal volume. And this is just from those events. So, we know that there's other things that happen during the month, people that we hadn't thought of inviting to something or maybe weren't interested in attending an event, but we're having one-on-ones. So you can see how your PV can just really blow up really quickly. And again, just asking them, who else do you know? This is instant referrals. Sometimes I think people feel really funny asking their members or customers, even their family, for the names of other people. And I've heard, people say before that we need to know who they know before they go. And we have a finite number of people that we know. So at some point, especially when we're, looking at building in depth, this goes with business, this goes with the customers. We need to find out who those people are, who are in their circles of influence, who we do not know. So when you invite somebody to something like a healthy home event or a natural medicine cabinet event, perhaps you're reaching out to them because they have been home all week with their sick child, and you can ask them, gosh, is there anybody else who's been home too? Who else do you know who's in the same position? And there you go. You have an instant referral, and they can invite that person. In addition to all those new people coming in, you're going to be getting points towards this power bonus incentive that Shaklee has going on right now. So not only is your bonus check going to be going up by this increased PV, but you're also going to be getting $150 every time you have 15 points, and you could do that repeatedly. So it's just a really exciting time, and this calendar is just a way to focus and just kind of get our thoughts on making sure every event is something that we're sharing with members and customers and next door neighbors and just people that maybe we didn't reach out to before. But I love how the second page though showed them how that can translate into PV and can translate into a larger bonus check.
Yeah, Francine, when Barb and I were going over the slides, I was thinking 1,200 PV is probably, depending on if you're a director or not, what your price differential is or your bonus percentage. But, we kind of figured it out, and I'm going to have to remember the math really quickly. But it could be, depending on the price differential, it could be, $400, $500 out of that 1,200 PV. And so going back to what Charlene was speaking about earlier, taking that $400, what can we do with that? That can be huge for some people to pay that against their debt, or that can be a light bill, a cell phone bill, and a dinner out with your spouse or your significant other. So talking about that in solution oriented, and for someone who's coming on your team to say this is a very simple, easy plan to get you some great income.
Right. And I love what you're saying too, Angie, about having a plan for it. I think Charlene kind of hit on that a little bit, but sometimes when we're starting out in this business, this may be extra money. Maybe we're doing other things in addition to Shaklee, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're making $200 a month, we're making $600 a month. And sometimes we might just treat that like play money, but that really has there's just so much opportunity that could come with that extra money. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, time and money are very similar. And if I don't have a plan for it, it makes a plan for me. And so, just really thinking about what your goals are and how that extra income can really help you meet those goals, and, set up accounts. And you could even, ever since our girls were little, we always kind of told them whenever they got money, a certain percentage went into savings, a certain percentage they had to give away, and a certain percentage was theirs to play with. And that's kind of how we manage our money too. So you can certainly do that. You don't have to put all of this into an account that you're never going to touch unless you're paying off a bill. If that gives you joy, that's wonderful. But if you want to go out and, get a DQ Blizzard or whatever too with a little bit of it, do that. Treat yourself. You've worked for this. But yeah, having a plan for it just makes us really recognize this as a business and a profitable business and something that we're working towards and growing. And pat yourself on the back for that, because you're building something that is really a gift here.
Yeah.
Excellent. So good. Well, and I love it. And I was actually thinking along the lines of the same thing, even when Charlene was talking about how she would have, a meeting with someone but keep it brief because she had an intention of having 3 and 4 and 5 other short conversations with them. You could see she has a process in her mind of what she's going through, and she's clear on the process, and she's patient within the process. And you kind of laid out the same kind of process in a sense where you're focused on PV building. But I think that so much of how we can step into successful building is to really create a process and then be consistent within that process. I think it gives us some capacity for success and measured growth because we're able to work a system that's going to work. So good.
Exactly.
All right. I don't know who's doing action steps, so either one of you take it away.
I think I'm supposed to do them.
Okay.
So now, everyone, the action steps, create our goals for February. For example, 1,000 new PV. So taking Francine's idea and expounding on that, or taking what Charlene was talking about with the reset. Create something that is going to get you from here to 1,000 new PV. Create a goal of how many people you're going to sponsor each week or for the whole month. And then with those new members that you're going to sponsor, because especially with that power bonus we have going on right now, new members are always important, but even more so now because we can capitalize on it. But from that batch of new members, have a plan to really put in place the new member appointments, which then gives us an opportunity to go over the benefits of a home business. And especially with what Charlene shared with us today, give yourself some time to reflect on what that means to you, what having a home business means to you, and what freedom it's given you, what debts you might be paying off, or what the products that are helping your health that you're able to buy now, or the private school that you're able to send your children to, whatever it is for you, really reflect on that, and then you can share that with these new members and new member appointments, the prospective business people, as it is applicable, or when the conversation opens itself up for that. We've been reminded today of the powerful ability of the Dream Plan to provide financial options and freedom. So I think that the lesson here today is that we are what the solutions that it are offering us are what we should focus on in solutions that it can offer are the people that we come across, our members, our new friends, whatever. And then choose what material you want to use to share this business opportunity. What format do you want to share with Facebook events? Do you want to do these Zoom video conferences? I know Charlene talks a lot about it. It's an effective way for people to share face-to-face, but if you're not in the same town, you can do it over the computer. Individual appointments are always wonderful. Or do you want to utilize the Shaklee TV videos? For a lot of you, it's going to be a combination. And then decide how many people are you going to meet with this month? How are you going to reach out to these people?
Excellent. All right. And then here is the lineup of what is ahead for our strategy forums, and my goodness, we are just jam-packed with amazing stuff. So you can kind of see we have Laura Evans coming up, Marjorie Fine, we have a John Maxwell leadership speaker coming, Barb Behar. So there is tons of valuable growth stuff just out there waiting for us to step into. So I'm extremely excited about this session and what we're able to kind of bring to our teams and our people. So. All right, any more questions we need to field? I think I was kind of scrolling through them a little bit. I think we got most of them. I see a question here. I'm gonna answer just a little bit, and then you girls can jump in if you want. Someone, I think Teresa asked, what is the equivalent, the dollar equivalent when you have PV? And then there was another question early on that said, how much do you make at 600 PV? How much do you make at 1200 PV? A lot of that is really going to depend on where you're at in the compensation plan. But what I recommend to my leaders, and I think this is really important, is get that dream plan brochure out. Start in the top left-hand corner, and it shows you what percent you make at 250, and then get your calculator out. And you'll see that once you kind of run through that, it's exactly what Charlene says. I think we tend to think that numbers are outrageously overwhelming. You know, I always joke, it's like how I see my laundry pile. It's going to take me years and years to finish that laundry. That's not really true. We just have to dive in, right? And so get your calculator, get a paper, get a buddy, sit down with the dream plan and say, okay, if a new person's starting out and they get 500 PV, what's their bonus? And you just do a percent calculation and they get $40. And so I think, that's just the very beginning of get comfortable with calculating bonuses. And then when you do this enough years and you're moving through the ranks, you get really good at running the numbers. That's kind of how we see it. And you kind of see it. So if a person hits 1,000 PV and they're not a director, you know, you're looking at 120%. So I think there's a lot of, not 112%, $120. There's a lot of differences depending on where you're at. But that's really, I think, the best advice I could give. Does anybody else want to jump in on that?
I think she was, later on she responded again and said she was not wondering what she's going to get paid, but how much will the customer be paying on those PVs. And I think it really depends on, it's okay. I think it really depends on the products. You know, 100 PV is usually about $150-ish. I mean, it always depends. The Get Clean products have a lower PV, so you really have to.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I think in Francine's example, she was saying the average order even on the low side is a 50 PV order for a new member. So that she was just taking the averages.
Very good. Very good.
Right.
All right. So I had lots and lots of kudos. Everybody loved it. It was an amazing session. Any last minute things, or otherwise we wish you all a very productive working week, and thank you to our amazing guest speaker, and go live your dream, and we'll see you next Tuesday, right?
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
great day. Thanks again, Charlene.
Probably Barb found that. She finds all the good quotes. So good afternoon, everyone, or morning, wherever you are. Our beautiful quote today, I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. I think that is a very true quote there. And I think we've heard that one before on these trainings.
And it's good news, because guess what that means? We have some say in what happens to us, right? So hallelujah. It's good news.
Yeah, we have a little control here.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm sorry, you might have to remind me 3 times that I'm actually running slides today. Now, see, here's what happens, Chris. I push the space bar and it's not going. Okay, hold on. My computer. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
All right, here we go.
All right. So we like to do a little Facebook post of the week, and we tried to get this one in last week, so you might recognize the slide, but we didn't talk about it. And it's perfect for our pre-call last week, but it's also perfect with what Charlene's going to talk about today. Tracy Fixon is a distributor in North Dakota, and she posted this excellent picture of her computer screen with this article, would you join a multi-level marketing company for retirement income? And what she said was so perfect. Just doing a little research, and yes, the answer is yes. Network marketing for retirement. Stay-at-home moms don't have 401ks or retirement plans, but we do have college to pay for, weddings to think about, and future grandbabies to spoil. And I don't want my honey working till death do us part. And I just think I related to that so much as a stay-at-home mom, as someone who doesn't want my husband to work his little tail off late into life, and for someone who also wants to give my children the life, with college and weddings and things like that. So I think that's a great point. And I also think that this is very relatable to tax season coming up. So I love this post.
Excellent.
Yes.
I love that whole thing too about retirement. You know, I mean, this business is so great for so many people at whatever life stage you're at. And just recently, I think because I'm creeping up closer to that magic retirement age too, my friends are all that age as well. And so we've been talking about that because, you know, when you're working at something, and not everybody wants to leave the job they have, you know, even if it's a more traditional type of job. But I mean, the people I know who are staying with those jobs are really passionate about what they do too, but they don't want to do it forever. And so they want to do something, though, with their retirement years, something that they're just as passionate about, and they're seeing the value in a Shaklee business for that time in their lives. So I love that it works in so many different life stages.
Yeah,
I
that's
just agree. Yeah. And the meaningfulness, right? You know, investing into
right.
something that's meaningful. So, sorry. Good thoughts.
That's great.
Right.
So now we get to hear from Tony Robbins. And if you're familiar with Tony Robbins, when Barb was telling me that we're going to do this quote, I kind of wish she was reading it because she read it like with such passion.
Gotta yell.
Yeah, she was like, well,
Yeah.
she wasn't yelling, but she was like, I'm like, Barb, do I have to say it that way? She's like, yes. So don't make fun of me. But if you want to live a life that's courageous, you've got to stretch. And to stretch means when I can't, I must. Every time you say, I can't do it, you're going to immediately say, I must do it. It means if you find yourself saying, I can't do something, but you know it in your heart of hearts that if you do it, you're going to grow, you're going to be a better person, it's going to contribute to your family or to your kids or to something that matters, and you keep saying, I can't do it, there's no question. You must do it. You don't discuss it anymore. You just take immediate action. You make the phone call. You step up in front of the room. You raise your hand. You do what's necessary.
Excellent. Nice.
Did I yell enough?
Yeah.
Good.
That's as much as I can do on the yelling. Okay, so we have some great promotions that are extended. We talk about them every week, so hopefully you are very familiar with them. The health print one has been extended through February 28th. Actually, that slide should read February 28th. But I felt like on the national leaders call a couple weeks ago, it sounded like that might even be longer than February, that they weren't sure it might continue because it's been such a popular special and people are loving it. So what that tells us, everyone, is if we like a special that they're doing, make sure that you are using it and that people are, they're seeing those numbers, and that's what Shaklee looks at. Like, is this working? We'll keep doing it. So apparently this one is working, so keep it up. If you have any questions about that special, there's a ton of details on the webinar or on the website. And then the Shaklee 180 starter kit was also extended. I love, love, love this kit. Again, you're getting 2 LifeShake canisters, which is 30 meals, a 30-day supply of Vital E, 30-day supply of the Metabolic Boost, and a box of snack bars, all for $150. That we need to get these slides changed. That starter kit is going to be offered through the end of February also. And again, this is another one that was doing so well and the demand was so great that they continued to have this special. If you pair this special with the health print, you could have a new member coming in and getting a free membership because they get their free membership with $150. They could get this special package for $150, but then if they put in their number one goal as weight loss, this kit will be what's recommended in the health print, and the free product will be a box of snack bars. So then they'll end up getting 2 boxes of snack bars, and I think that is like
so smart. Yeah. And I'm going to, real quick before we move into Francine, I'm going to unmute Charlene and just do a quick sound check, and then Francine's going to share some really powerful concepts. So Charlene, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I'm good. Am I good?
Yeah, you're nice and clear. Beautiful.
Awesome.
I saw your name. I thought we better just grab her and get this done. So we have just about 10 more minutes of pre-call, but we're so excited to have you on. So Angie, anything else you want to add about these promotions? And you're right, we'll get the slides updated so next week we're all cohesive here. But thank you for bringing these up.
We can add the plain and simple shake to this starter kit too.
Nice.
Some people might be really excited about. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. All right, and so Francine is going to tell us about something that when I read through it, I thought was rather brilliant, and I just want to have you guys pay extra attention to this because we're going to reference this again at the end of today's session because it's going to tie in really beautifully with what we're doing. So Francine, tell us what you have here.
Sure. Well, if you could see me, I'm making air quotes. This brilliant idea came to me in the shower because that's where all the magic happens, right? So,
Right.
Anyway, so I jumped out of the shower because I had this idea. But we really, one of the beautiful things about the Shaklee business is that we work together as a team. And so I have a variety of people on my team who some have joined us recently, some, are a little older, but we have a lot of things going on and a lot of events to invite people to. And so if you could see this whole form, I laid out a calendar of all the upcoming events. We're doing a series of Zoom events from January through the end of February. And then we also have health chats every Thursday night and wellness webinars. And then we also have other things peppered in depending on the needs of some of our customers. And so what I wanted people to do was just to think big and think about when they invited people to these things, if they could shoot for having 6 people who said that they could come to each of those events, how that would just bloom and grow and, oh my goodness, just set their businesses on fire. And so I wanted them to have a goal to have at least one person at each event, but their big goal is that they would have at least 4 people. And I even wrote a little affirmation for them, reminding them that people are excited when we call and we never have trouble finding people to this event. And then we also talked about how we don't necessarily need to know 6 people to invite to each of the events, but we can talk to one person. And if we're talking to one person who's been home for the last 4 or 5 days because their child has influenza A, I bet you that person knows somebody else who's in the same boat because our kids are germy little sweet people, but they get each other sick. And so, when you're home with your child, other moms who are home with their children too in the same boat, and they're missing work and they're missing out on other family activities, and perhaps they're sick themselves and they're just tired of it. So anyway, this was also a tool to get them to think about asking for referrals in just a really nice, comfortable way. And by doing that, I did some math here, and I think we're going to look at this a little bit later, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But it was just to help them really put numbers to what this means when we invite extra people who maybe we haven't talked to already. And especially with that power bonus period that we have going on right now, this is a super fantastic time to look for new members and to have new people be introduced to Shaklee, because that really gives us an advantage right now that we don't always have until we promote to a new rank.
Excellent, excellent. Yay. Well, I tell you, it is smart and so measurable, right? To kind of calculate your growth and be intentional about your growth and where you want to get. I think many times we set goals and then we don't really have the guts to fill in from now into the goal, and we don't know what to do. And so you've conceptualized a beautiful process here, and I'm really excited about it. So yay.
Yeah, I think I love it too, and I love how if you want 3 people to attend, invite 6. I think we sometimes have to focus on not being disappointed that all 6 didn't come, because it's natural that they're not all going to say
part
yes.
of the process.
Right, right. And you
Yeah.
can be creative with that too. I mean, talk to one person and see if they know 1 or 2 people that would like to attend too. And you could, reward them just as if they were doing an event. And I mean, how beautiful is that? Because here you're having an event, you're actually having a hostess who's doing the inviting, and then you're doing the follow-up. It's not anybody coming to your home. It's not you getting out and going to somebody else's house. It's nobody worried about their house getting messy or whatever. It's all online on the phone, and of course we want to love on our customers and show them they're important to us. So we can still reward them for having referrals and introducing us to people that they know who we may not have known existed until now.
And I think that is a really good point to point out, because one of the things I think we do, especially when we're really thinking and striving to kind of get into upper leadership, is we recognize that our job is to facilitate growth, not only for our downline and our referral partners, but also to provide a structure that allows our members to bring people. And so that's really what you've done, I think. And your affirmation is what I love the most, because not only did you facilitate and create a structure for people to step into and grow, but you also help them with their mindset so that they can be successful. So you're awesome, Francine. So good. It was great. Great stuff. So we have just a few minutes before we get started. So, Charlene, tell us where you're calling from, because it seems like every time I hear from you, you're in a different part of the country. It's always a guess,
I
right?
happen to be home, so I'm in DC until tomorrow
Okay.
when we head out to the Masters Summit.
And I was wondering that because I knew that a lot of you were heading that way this week.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
that
decided to go early in the morning rather than waste my time there tonight. So.
You're so smart. Well, we're super excited. I tell you, when Barb told us that she had lined you up as a speaker, I was thrilled because I think I've got to hear you once at a Future Masters event, and that was the first time I'd heard you speak, and it was, I think, in Nashville, and it was, maybe it was Long Beach. It was just so good, and I was so impressed. But we had a nice group of leaders go to a new directors conference that you were the
Oh,
main speaker, and they still quote you all the
oh, that's
time. Well,
awesome.
Charlene Fike says this, and Charlene Fike says that. Oh, so I was really excited when we found out that you got to be with us today.
Yes.
Anyway.
I'm doing your Matrix 24 training, Charlene, and I just really love it. It's so valuable. So excited to know you were coming on today.
Glad it's paying off.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you guys been in DC? Because that's a fairly recent move for you, right?
Yeah, we have been in and out a lot because we have been developing relationships with a bunch of different people here in the embassies and stuff, and so we really wanted to come, but it just took a while to disentangle ourselves from the inn and other retreat center we were a part of. So we permanently moved to our apartment a year ago, September.
Okay.
About a year and a half, not quite.
Good, good.
I'm
And I know I
loving
was,
it. I'm just
yeah.
loving it. Yeah.
Aw.
This is my kind of place, so
Well,
I'm
because you
quite
guys are
happy.
right in the city, right? I mean, smack in the middle of all the excitement.
Smack in the middle. I'm wearing earbuds so you don't hear any of the noise, but so far I'm doing pretty good. The only things I've got going is there's a guy singing across the street, but I don't think you can hear him, and hopefully there won't be a lot of sirens.
Oh, it's funny. Ah, yeah,
I
I
want to
think
hear the guys.
yeah, you're curious now, huh?
No, I want to hear the singer.
Yeah, he's there, all right.
Funny. So tell us, you have, I know I was loving in the little thing that you sent me as far as just about yourself. You guys are expecting your first grandbaby, right?
I am. I'm just thrilled as can be.
Cannot imagine how wonderful. Ugh.
It is. We're really looking forward to it.
Ah.
So yeah, in fact, Lisa, they've moved out your way. So they
Oh,
just
really?
recently moved out to. Her parents are from Fort Collins
Oh,
area, so they're in What's the name of the town?
Longmont. Yeah.
Not Longmont. It's a different town.
It's
Ooh.
there's Greeley, that's a little bit east, and then there's Fort Collins, there's Berthoud, which is kind of a cute little town in between Fort Collins and where we're at.
No,
Um,
I don't. None of those sound right.
there's Boulder. That's a big one. You would know if
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
it's too. It's closer to Fort Collins. I don't remember.
Well, I'm sure someone on the call is thinking of it. I'm going to get a text any minute now saying it's this, it's this. Well, that's fun. So then you might be visiting out our way. I'm sure you will be.
Yeah,
Maybe
when
you-
the baby comes, we'll definitely
Yeah.
be there in early June. So
Nice. That's wonderful. Well, cool.
Hey, Lisa, do you think we could answer a couple of questions before we hit the hour?
Hey, we have a minute. Let's use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Go for it.
three people would like to know a little bit more about Francine. When you were talking about incentives for attending the events,
Yeah.
do you give people incentives for attending, or when you close, do you give an incentive for that, or?
Uh-huh. Yes, it's just really individual, whatever you want to do. Now, with these particular events, I haven't been offering them an incentive to attend. We do go over the current incentive Shaklee has. That's probably key. If Shaklee's offering something for free, let's take them up on it instead of spending our money. So we always highlight the current incentives that are going on. Now, if they are referring people, though, I will reward them for their referrals, and that's just something I do anytime. And as far as what to reward them with, if they're currently a member, it's really easy. Excuse me, to do a free product through the gift fulfillment. If there's somebody who really hates shipping, you could put in a shipping coupon on their next order, that kind of thing. But again, just make it be whatever works for you, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, but you want people though to also feel like this is worthwhile. So if you have some of the plain and simple shake at home, maybe somebody's interested in that. You could give them some samples of that. It doesn't even have to be like full products. Just a nice little sample pack sometimes is just really enticing to somebody too, and they get to try some different products and different product lines perhaps that they haven't tried yet.
It's smart because you're just cultivating people to thinking outwardly to other people that could benefit, and you're just giving them a little idea. Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
I think you have to look at what your goal is and then design your incentive around that. But I'm sorry,
Right.
Lisa, go ahead, kick us off.
Are you ready? Good. Well, I have to answer questions. I did get a text, and it is Loveland. Is that correct, Charlene?
Yes, that sounds
I
right.
knew it. Someone on this call was going to give me the answer. It's magic.
That's exactly where it is.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to do a countdown, and we're going to kick off this amazing session today. 3, 2, 1.